I have been looking into this JFK um, information for quite some time. I'm talking about going back probably about now 10 years. So it's been about a decade. Okay. It's been about a decade that I've done this. And the thing is, JFK was such a great president. He didn't have a long reign, obviously. And I'm not even big on politics. As you guys know, I call them polytricksters. I'm not really happy with any particular president or any particular politician. But from time to time, I also have to acknowledge when people come in and do something worthwhile. JFK was big time in the civil rights movement, and he made some drastic moves that helped to ease tensions in the South and allow Black students to go to the school that they were assigned to, their college that they had got accepted to. He even enacted martial law at one point and enacted the troops to come in and allow these students to get access to their school safely, with huge massive mobs outside wanting to hurt them, wanting to attack them, and wanting to block them from coming into the school, including the dean of the school itself. And JFK said, no, unacceptable. These people have earned the right to come to this school, and I'm going to use the military to make sure that they come in the front door and attend this school. And so I thought that was very commendable, amongst many other things that he had done. Of course, the famous secret society speech that he had made. There's so many things that this guy has done that are just like stand out, mind-blowing in such a short period of time that he had access to that office, that really made me revere him as a real president. And I had never really acknowledged any other president before, but I acknowledged JFK as a real president, someone who actually tries to make a real change, going against the grain. Now, I know, some people, you all will all have your opinions on different presidents, and that's okay, as to what you think they've done great and so forth, because it might affect you in a different way. And I just feel personally for me that I really revered JFK. Now, I've been around through a lot of presidents. Okay, so I've been around for a minute. I remember, you got Nixon, Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush Sr., Bill Clinton, George Bush Jr., Obama, Trump. Then who we have after that? We had Biden, then Trump again. I've seen a lot of presidents already. I've seen a lot of presidents. Unfortunately, I was born right after JFK was, assassinated. So, and I would have been a baby, a super baby anyway. So, but still, this guy was amazing. So I thought it was worthwhile to take my energy and my time to put into this. Okay. Now, let's take a look at some of the information. Obviously, JFK, John F. Kennedy, he was a president that went against the grain. He wanted to do several things, and these things that I'm going to list are probably a combination of these, things are what got him killed. One thing was wanting to go away from the fiat currency and get back to the gold standard, right? Money backed by actual gold. Okay. Wanting to get rid of that institution that snuck in and stole our money. And who am I talking about? The central banking system, Rockefeller and Rothschild. They snuck in behind closed doors when everyone was asleep, and they positioned themselves as a central bank in America with high powers that allowed it to happen, and to allow them to siphon money from the American people and pay interest on money and loans that don't exist. And we've been paying that money and that interest on those loans to the central banking system since then. And when I say the money doesn't exist, the money doesn't even exist. 100% of your income tax goes to the central bank to pay back interest on loans to the US government from money that they made up on a computer with zeros and ones. 100% of your income tax, 100% of your income tax goes towards paying the central bank. Now, the way they have the system set up, it's really a great scam. Like, it's really a great pyramid scheme, because you go to work, you bust your ass, blood, sweat, and tears to earn the money. That's your energy exchange. You exchange energy for money. Whether you're using your brain or your body, it's still energy for money. Your brain generates and uses and burns calories just like a muscle does. So you exchange energy for money. You bust your ass, you earn the money, right? But before they send it to you, they say, wait a minute, give me some of this money. We're going to tax this money. So they snatch taxes out of your money to send to your income tax, to send straight to the central bank to pay interest on loans that were fabricated and created by zeros and ones. Money didn't even exist in the first place. And then after they've already snatched a huge percentage of your check, you now have to take what they did give you to take care of your daily expenses and responsibilities, right? So you have to go to the grocery store, you have to go to department stores, you have to go buy a car, you got to pay this bill, that bill, you have to get gas, you have to get a cell phone. All these things are taxed. So they've already taxed you once. Now they're going to, that money goes to the elite rulers, the oligarchs that control the planet. But now the government says, now we got to get something out of this. So we're going to have to add gas tax. We're going to have to add car tax. We're going to have to add department store tax, right? All these particular taxes they've got to add. And so now they're snatching more of the money, okay? So you're getting taxed on money that's already been taxed. You've been taxed already. They've already snatched it. And in some states, they've already snatched it twice, because they're going to snatch it for the central bank, and then the second part they'll snatch it for the state, because the state says, "Look, we got a bank too. We want to take some of that money." Like if you're in California or New York, they're going to snatch you twice. Then you got to go spend money, and that's going to be taxed on whatever you're buying. Whatever you're buying is going to be taxed, right? And then after that, you're left with what? Peanuts. So it's just wild that this system is set up this way. And we, the people, you and I, and everyone else out there in America and wherever else you're being taxed, we have allowed this. So we're in full collusion. The moment that we realized that this happened, the absolute moment that we realized that we got scammed, the people should have immediately said, if you guys don't change this back, we won't pay any bills. We're not paying mortgage payments. We're not paying car payments. We are not paying loans back. We're going to stop until this is switched back. But you see, they understand that the people of America, especially, have fallen for the divide and conquer tactics. And they know that they've done a phenomenal psychological and psychosis job on us to make us see one another as different, and to hate one another, and to want to attack one another, and to attack people by their race, by their weight, by their gender, by their what they agree with politically or not politically, whatever it is. They found every single angle to attack. What religion you are, what you believe in or don't believe in. It's all about the attack. And so everyone is at odds with each other, because they have the peasants, and the peasants are who? That's us. We're the peasants. We're the peasants. I can't go buy a private island right now. These people can go buy private islands whenever they want. These people control the GDP of entire countries. They can make a tweet, some of these people, and they can take down an entire country's economy from a tweet. I don't have that kind of power. You don't have that kind of power. These are elite oligarchs. Well, they've positioned everything in a way and set up this pyramid structure in a way where we're at the bottom, and they're dominating and controlling us through programming tactics that we fall for on a consistent basis. So the fact that you're paying a buttload of taxes and they're snatching all this money out of your paycheck, it's not their fault, it's our fault. Let's get that straight first and foremost. Because we don't fight back. All we do is coalesce and acquiesce and agree to and go by and go with and be quiet. Our silence is our collusion. It makes us complicit with the scam. Our silence makes us complicit with the scam. Sometimes we just got to look in the mirror. It's just a fact. See, I see things a little bit differently than other people. So that's one issue that was going on there. The fact that, if they go away from the fiat currency, this fake money that doesn't even exist, and move everything back to gold standard, well, then that creates a big problem for the oligarchs that are fabricating this fake money and propagating it around the planet, destroying economies, destroying the value of countries' money, and of course, creating this inflation here in America that's gone bananas. It's bananas. This is crazy inflation. I remember my grandmother told me, my Nana, a long time ago, this is probably back in the early 1980s, probably like 82, 83. I went to a grocery store with her, and she told me to grab a gallon of milk. So I went to go grab the gallon of milk, and she looked at the milk. And back then, we didn't have like digital things or, barcodes. So they would actually use this machine to stamp like a sticker on every single product. And it had a sticker on it that had the price. And the price was like, I don't know if it was 79 cents or something like that. And my Nana was like, this is expensive. And she said, one day, because of inflation, a gallon of milk is going to be $5. And I remember, I'll never forget her telling me that. And I was just like blown away when she said that. And I was like, it can't be $5. It's not even $1 right now. And sure enough, there's milk in the grocery store for $10, depending on what kind of milk it is. There's milk for $7, $8, $6, and even $5 or $4.99. There's milk in the grocery store right now for all those price points. This inflation that these oligarchs have created is destroying the economy. You see? This inflation goes back long before. Let me tell you the start point of these oligarchs before I get into this documentation. If you read a book by William Bramley called The Gods of Eden, and he gets his knowledge and he gets the text and he references the specific texts in the book. It's a great reference book. He's talking about the fact that the Sumerians, which we know had come up with a lot of humanity's firsts. The first plow and animal husbandry, the first street grids and city centers, plumbing, infrastructure, as well as political systems. So they invented politricks. They invented the bicameral Congress over 6,000 years ago. The one tablet, 6,000 years, is probably more ancient than the tablet itself. That's just a copy of an older tablet. One thing that we found in there was that there have now been hundreds of tablets found that are IOUs, little tiny stone IOUs. In other words, a dollar, an American dollar, or whatever country you live in, those dollars are all IOUs. And so they show that there was a monetary system in place that was already building on inflation. In these tablets and these receipts that have been discovered in Iraq and the surrounding area, it shows that if a farmer had a farm for wheat, with harvesting wheat, and another farmer had goat, okay? The farmer with the wheat would go take 2 bushels of wheat to the farmer with the goat, and they would exchange and barter, right? They would exchange for the wheat for the goat in a barter system. But let's say that it's a holiday, and everyone needs goats because they've got to have this goat for the holiday. And now I come with my 2 bushels of wheat, and now there's a shortage of goats because so many people are bum rushing the farmer to get goats. Now, when I come there, I give him the 2 bushels of wheat. He gives me a half of a goat because he doesn't have enough. He says, take this half a goat and take this stone cuneiform IOU. It's enough. It is his credit for another half of a goat. So then he comes back a few weeks later, say, hey man, I have my IOU. I need to get that half a goat. But the shortage has not been resolved. So supply and demand build up. So now he says, well, it's not worth a half a goat anymore. Now it's only worth a quarter of a goat. We have these records. These are real records of ancient transactions. So now you see the first evidence of inflation being utilized and installed on humanity going back thousands of years. Thousands of years. Think about that. So this system has been in place for time immemorial. And we just keep acquiescing to it and allowing it to happen over and over and over and over again. People say, why do you talk about the ancient past? Because if we all understood what happened in this ancient past with these receipts and these texts and this fiat currency that existed 6,000 years ago, maybe today we would say, no, we're not going to fall for that shit again. We're not going to do that. Y'all aren't going to, you're not going to get us again. We're going to stop you right here and right now. But we keep thinking that the government has the power. We keep forgetting that the government works for us, that they are our employees. But they have pimped us so strongly in our mind that they have us believing that we need to obey them. And if we don't obey them, they will lock us up and fine us and do all these crazy things to us because they know that we will acquiesce, and they know that the programming code of divide and conquer is so strong within us that we will never organize and we will never work together to bring about change. One of the lesser discussed but highly significant aspects of JFK's presidency was his push for UFO disclosure and his growing distrust of the CIA. Declassified documents suggest that just days before his assassination, Kennedy was applying pressure on the CIA to release classified information about extraterrestrial life and unidentified flying objects. In a memorandum dated November 12, 1963, just 10 days before his assassination, JFK directed the CIA to provide him with all relevant information on UFOs. This memo addressed to the director of the CIA specifically mentioned the need to share information with NASA as Kennedy sought to seek out greater cooperation with the Soviet Union on space-related matters. He wanted to work with Russia, the Soviet Union, not go against them. Instead of competition, he wanted collaboration. The same thing I always say. We're so programmed to be in competition. Competition puts you at odds with one another. Competition means you have a lack of abundance mindset. Competition means you don't believe there's enough. But when you collaborate, well, then abundance really manifests for you. You see? So he says that his intent was to prevent misunderstandings between the two superpowers, ensuring that unidentified aerial phenomena weren't mistaken for hostile actions that could lead to nuclear war. He wanted to get this information to the general public so bad because he believed that the fact that Russia and us and even other nations were seeing these UFOs, they were buzzing to the military bases. They were buzzing Air Force aircraft and other military aircraft from other countries, including the Soviet Union. And they believed that if they weren't able to come up to some type of a agreement and work together to understand with each other that these things are not ours and they're not yours, and we're not threatening you and you're not threatening us. So don't launch nukes against us, because guess what? We're in this together. We don't know what these things are. That's what he tried to accomplish. Another document uncovered through the Freedom of Information Act request is an alleged letter from Kennedy to NASA in which he expressed interest in declassifying information on extraterrestrial technology. And basically, what happened was the direct threat to deep state intelligence, particularly the CIA, which had long operated in secrecy regarding UFO research, made them feel like they were at odds against Kennedy. The next thing was JFK's increasing efforts to strip the CIA of its covert power weren't limited to UFOs. Following the Bay of Pigs disaster, that was that big thing going on to try to infiltrate Cuba, Kennedy had vowed to splinter the CIA into thousands of pieces and scatter it into the winds. Exact quote. I love this guy. Let me read that again, because I love just saying that. It sounds amazing. He wanted to splinter the CIA into thousands of pieces and scatter it into the winds. His distrust of the agency, combined with his push for UFO disclosure, may have made him a marked man. Okay. When considering factors alongside evidence connecting George W. Bush to the CIA and the JFK assassination, a troubling picture emerges. Ooh, George Bush Sr. is involved here. How could he possibly be involved? How could George Bush Sr. possibly be involved with the assassination of JFK? In 2018, when I came out with this information and came up with my hypothesis that George Bush Sr. gave the actual kill order, the hit order. He put the hit out on JFK. A lot of people made a lot of crazy comments and told me I was wrong and I was crazy and that can't be and it's not possible because he didn't get to the CIA until 1973 or something like that. And I found one of the letters that were redacted and not fully declassified at that time, but I have a copy of it today showing that he was there, and there's evidence that he was not only there but had interacted with not only the CIA but also the Mafia. So we're going to go over that tonight. All right. Don't forget the Bushes, man. That Bush family, those are some evil people. George Bush Sr.'s father, if you don't know about that, he helped fund Hitler. Yeah. I think his name was Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush was funding Hitler from an American bank during World War II. Jeb Bush was funding Hitler from a United States bank during World War II. Boeing, who's having a lot of problems right now with all these aircraft falling out the damn sky. They forgot how to build a damn airplane all of a sudden. They were supplying Hitler with the fuselages for his flying Air Force to attack and defend themselves. Ford motor cars, they were supplying Hitler with all the Jeeps. Matter of fact, Hitler gave Henry Ford, a star, like the Star of Honor from Germany, for his support and his work from building actual warehouses or what do you call those things? He built assembly houses right there in Germany to build Jeeps for Hitler. When in World War II, when the bombs were dropping close to the facilities, the production facilities for the vehicles, Henry Ford got pissed off and got the president on the phone and said, "Hey, you guys are getting too close to my factory. Don't drop no bombs on my factory, man." Yeah, check this stuff out. This is wild. This is wild stuff. And so he got a star. He got an award, like a silver medal, like a silver star or something from Hitler at the time. But this is what we're dealing with. The name is Prescott Bush. I know I read it probably 10, 15 years ago. The name Jeb came to my mind. It just sounded like a bunch of hillbillies, I guess. But yeah, not Jeb. It's Prescott Bush. So correct me. Thank you for correcting me there. I appreciate that. Prescott Bush was supplying Hitler with the doggone money to fund a war from U.S. banks, which is just bananas. He didn't even go to prison for it either. Just wild. That Bush family is complicit in so much stuff, so many murders and stuff. I'm gonna do a whole nother video. I might do a documentary on the Bushes, because you almost have to do a full documentary on them. That's how evil they were. Aliens wanting to be disclosed. We have JFK wanting to splinter the CIA into pieces. He's got a severe distaste for the CIA, and the CIA knows it. He blocked them from the Bay of Pigs. He's blocking them at every turn. Okay. He wants to go back to the gold standard and get out of the fiat currency. So now he's pissing off the global oligarchs. And then he had a situation where he leaked some top secret information to his side chick. And that also got him in a lot of trouble. Okay. He was sleeping with Marilyn Monroe behind his wife's back. And he ended up, I guess they had him bugged. They was probably spying on him, just like they spied on Nixon and everyone else, the Watergate and all that other stuff. And And he had leaked some top secret information to Marilyn Monroe, or either she heard some top secret information that they felt like, okay, we've got to put an end to this guy, and maybe put even an end to her as well, because all of a sudden she was gone. So they had their motive. I'm establishing motive here, and I think that's just a small tip of the iceberg of motive for what happened. Okay, a very small tip of the iceberg for what happened. This is a official declassified letter, and I'm going to read this letter. Okay, I'm going to read it. This is a declassified document from 1988, which provides evidence contradicting George W. Bush's denial of his past involvement with the CIA. I'm glad I found this, because that post I made in 2018, I feel completely venerated now. The document was a memorandum from FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover to State Department, dated November 29, 1963, just 1 week after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. It details a meeting between the FBI and the CIA officials discussing the reaction of the Cuban exile community to Kennedy's murder. The memo explicitly states that the substance of the foregoing information was orally furnished to us and George Bush of the Central Intelligence Agency. This directly connects Bush to the CIA officially, to discussions immediately following JFK's assassination. And when questioned by journalists, Bush initially denied involvement, and he claimed that it wasn't me. Oh, it wasn't you, George Bush Sr. You just happened to be on a declassified FBI document naming you as one of the key contributors to talking specifically about the assassination in days after it happened. And now all of a sudden you're saying that, oh, no, that wasn't me. Okay, you got to lie better. Now, when pressed further, a spokesperson for George Bush refused to comment. This raises a critical question. Why would Bush need to lie about his CIA connection? Okay, let's check this out. During the preparations for the House Select Committee on the assassination, a Texan man named Bill Lord, who had been a fellow Marine and shipmate of Lee Harvey Oswald on a voyage to France, was pressured to not testify before the committee. In a letter to President Jimmy Carter, which was written by Bill Lord, friend and former military partner with Lee Harvey Oswald, the person that they say killed Kennedy, Lord expressed his belief that Oswald was tied to both the FBI and the CIA, and concluded that these agencies were complicit in Kennedy's murder and the subsequent coup d'etat on November 22nd, 1963. He also named one of the individuals exerting pressure on him, pressure to have him not testify. Who was the person that exerted pressure on him in this letter to the president? It was George W. Bush Jr. So George Bush Sr. had his son putting pressure on this key witness to the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald was working with the FBI and the CIA. A politician in Midland, Texas, was George Bush Jr. at the time. This letter to Carter was later declassified and further weighed into the claims that intelligence agencies have been involved in JFK's assassination. Wow. Wow, this is fire. Okay? This is fire. I'm telling you, these Bushes, man, these people are no good. You know, you know what happened with 9/11. You already know about that. Bush was completely complicit in that. George Bush Jr. and probably, of course, his father and Larry Silverstein. It's a big party that we weren't invited to. They're making a lot of money and creating a lot of domination and control off of slaughtering us. So there's no surprise to me, based on what I know about 9/11, that the Bushes would be involved in it. It doesn't even surprise me, but it's just amazing to get the validation that it's true. That is an absolute fact. Okay, an absolute fact. So Kennedy had pissed off a lot of people. The CIA didn't want to be dismantled and broken down and splintered because they were operating covertly. They were operating behind the scenes with no congressional oversight, no presidential oversight, no parameters. I'm talking about arms deals, illegal arms, drug deals. They worked with the mafia. They supplied the mafia. Not only did they supply the mafia, they hired the mafia to put hits on other people. They used the mafia as their own personal militia to keep their hands clean. You see? And the secrets were just piling up. And JFK was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to stop this. And when he made that official statement saying that he was going to stop the secrecy, that was like the icing on top of the cake. Okay? That was like the icing on top of the cake. Let me get back over here to this. So I want to, let me pull this other thing up here. Hold on. Now, I have a video that I'm going to show you guys. This is the first recorded prison interview with James E. Files in 1994. Okay? He's a former mob associate that confessed to being the gunman on the grassy knoll who shot President John F. Kennedy, the second bullet. In this interview, Files provides detailed accounts of his involvement in covert operations linked to both the mob and the CIA. Files.
That's exactly what we keep an eye on me. In case something goes wrong, I want you to cover my backside. So I've positioned myself after Johnny Roselli went in. I stood at the counter, ordered a cup of coffee, and sat there and waited. This one heavyset gentleman came in, and he went over, and he knew Johnny Roselli, I assume, because they shook hands. They talked for a minute and sat down in the booth together. And they passed over, I'm going to say probably by 9 envelope, the null envelope that has material in it at that point. After a couple of minutes, he got up, they shook hands, he left. I went out into the parking lot, sure the air was clear, started the car up, pulled up by the door. Johnny Roselli come out and got in the car. I never met Jack Ruby, never said hello or anything. And Johnny Roselli got in the car with me, and we started back to Dallas. He opened the envelope up, and there was identification in there for Secret Service people. And we had a map in there of the exact motorcade route that would take it through Dealey Plaza. And Johnny Roselli said, well, they only made one change. And that was when he informed me that they was coming off of Main Street onto Elm, or onto Houston there. They made the zigzag, the little turn that they should have never made. But when they made that, that was the only change in it. I drove him back to the Dallas Cabana. He went upstairs, and I waited for Mr. Nicoletti to come down. Mr. Nicoletti came down and got in the car with me, and we drove to Dealey Plaza. And we got to Dealey Plaza shortly before 10 o'clock. And from there, we parked the car. It had been drizzling rain that morning. It's kind of a cool morning out. I parked the car beside the Dow Tech building. Mr. Nicoletti and I got out, and we walked up and down the complete area at Dealey Plaza. We covered every corner, walked by the buildings, looked over several different things. And we were just talking, having casual talk about one thing or another, the weather and everything. And at about 10:30, Mr. Nicoletti asked me how would I feel in supporting him and backing him up on this. And he told me I wouldn't fire unless it became extremely necessary. And I told Mr. Nicoletti, I said, Jesus, I'd be honored to do anything to back you up. And he asked me, he says, where would you, he said, where it goes outside, if you was to be outside here, he said, where would you position yourself at in Dealey Plaza? And I told him, I said, well, I said, from looking everything over and from walking in the week that I've been down here, I said, I think I would choose up there behind the tree behind that stockade fence on the high ridge by the knoll up there. And he says, why there? I said, well, I've got the railroad yard and back up in there. We've got a parking lot there. I've got a place to where I could stash whatever I would need. I said, and I can pass off myself off as a work in the railroad yard for the time being until that time comes. And nobody would really pay any attention to me. And he asked me then, he says, where do you think would be the best place for me? I said, well, I think the Dow Tech building with the new change in it, I think the Dow Tech building over there would give you the best advantage point there. And he said, I think so too. So we took a walk over, went through the parking lot over by the tracks, walked around through there, and he seemed pretty well pleased with that. And then at that point, it was about 11:10, he asked me what weapon would I choose to use over there? And I told him, I said, I would like to use the fireball. He says, why that one? He said, you've only got one shot. And I said, one shot's all I'm going to get anyway if I wait until the last moment of fire, and I may not fire. I said, and it's easy to conceal. I carry it in the briefcase, and nobody will pay any attention to him, and it's easier to walk away from there. And that's exactly what we did at that point. And shortly before noon, we went back to the vehicle. I took the briefcase out and turned my jacket inside out. I went back into the yard, and to the railroad yard there. I secured the briefcase. And then I hung out back there, and I walked down on the grassy knoll. I looked things over. Nobody paid any attention. People were gathering. And shortly before the motorcade came, I went back up there and started securing myself in a better position so I'd be able to reach the attaché case, at that point, the briefcase. Excuse me. And I knew once that I opened the briefcase up and pulled the weapon out, nobody's going to be looking at me. The motorcade would be coming, making its first turn, and I wouldn't have to remove the fireball from the briefcase until approximately they made the turn on Elm Street there. And I would have plenty of time at that point. And at that point, when they started proceeding down Elm Street, shots started being fired from behind, and I assumed that it was Mr. Nicoletti, because he was the one who was in the building, and I knew that Johnny Roselli was there. And I remember the shots ringing out, and even though the president was being hit with the rounds, I was considering it a miss because I knew that we were going for a headshot on the president. And I had known he had been hit in the body, but I didn't know what part at that time. And I seen the body lurch, and I saw the body lurch again. I heard another shot that missed, and we were supposed to hit no one but no one but Mr. Kennedy. And I guess Governor Cumley got hit with one of the rounds at that point. And I wasn't even sure of that because I was keeping Kennedy as best I could in the scope on the fireball. And when I got to the point where I thought it would be the last field of fire, I had zeroed in to the left side of the head there that I had, because if I waited any longer, then Jacqueline Kennedy would have been in the line of fire. And I'd been instructed for nothing to happen to her. And at that moment, I figured this is my last chance for a shot, and he still had not been hit in the head. So as I fired that round, Mr. Nicoletti and I had fired approximately at the same time as the hit started forward, then it went backward. And when I would have to say that his shell struck approximately 1,000th of a second ahead of mine, maybe, that's what started pushing the head forward, which caused me to miss in the left eye, and I came in on the left side of the temple. And
all right, so you see there, like I said, this is a very complex story. There are multiple bullets. It seems like there's 3 bullets. There's 3 shots in only a short amount of time, 8 seconds. And the type of gun that was used that they say was the kill shot, it couldn't fire 3 shots in 8 seconds. So we're understanding here now that Lee Harvey Oswald was not the only shooter, that Lee Harvey Oswald was working with the CIA and the FBI. He was in collusion with them. Also, he was former military, that one of his former military buddies wrote a letter to the president letting them know ahead of time, forewarning that this was going to happen. And we know that George Bush Sr. was working with the Mafia through the CIA to order the hit on JFK. And if you say, well, why would the CIA would never utilize the Mafia? Oh, really? Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this. The relationship between the CIA and the Mafia can be traced back to World War II, when the U.S. intelligence agencies worked with crime syndicates like Lucky Luciano's network to prevent Axis infiltration into American ports. However, this alliance evolved into something far more sinister during the Cold War. One of the most infamous collaborations involved Operation Mongoose, a secret CIA program initiated under President Eisenhower and expanded under Kennedy to overthrow Fidel Castro in Cuba. That was the Bay of Pigs incident. The CIA sought the help of top mobsters, Sam Gianca, Johnny Roselli, and Santo Trafficante Jr., to assassinate Castro in the early 1960s. So they were going to send the Mafia to go assassinate Castro. Or you already know that that failed, okay? The CIA's ties to the Mafia took on a darker turn when JFK and his brother, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, began cracking down on organized crime. RFK aggressively pursued Mafia figures, leading to tensions between Kennedy, the administration, and the criminal underworld. Some researchers believe that CIA's mob connections may have played a role in JFK's assassination. Okay. Several figures linked to the CIA Mafia assassination plots, Gianca, Roselli, and Traficante, have been implicated in JFK's murder. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The CIA is well known and well versed in working with the Mafia to take out hits on leaders of other countries, political figures in other places, and even people here on our own turf in the United States of America. So they use the Mafia because they can then they can keep their hands clean. All right, so they'll do the deal, they'll pay, get the hit done, and if the hit fails, and if anyone goes down, it was them, not us. You see, that's what they're doing. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And JFK was going to shut down the CIA. He was going to get rid of them because he knew they were a giant scam. I mean, these people are always. I mean, there was a CIA plane that went down about 15 years ago in South America with like 100 keys of cocaine on it. They sell illegal arms to third world countries. They sell drugs in the United States. They import drugs into the United States. They sell arms to small militias, and they sell guns to kingpins. And I mean, it's just bad. What they do is totally dark, evil, and bad. And it seems as if no one can really truly stop them. And not that they can't stop them. After they saw what happened to JFK, a lot of people are afraid to try and stop them because they feel as if their life and their families' lives will be in jeopardy. And so George Bush Sr., while he was in the CIA at the time, he put the kill order in collusion with the Mafia. The Mafia got involved and helped make sure that they took Kennedy down. They were ordered not to hit the wife. And based on the wife's reactions after the hit and how she was pretty much just calm and cool and collective, it seems as if she was even in on it potentially, as if she even knew about it. She probably was just pissed off, and to her, it was probably like sweet revenge for him sleeping with Marilyn Monroe. Okay? And Marilyn Monroe ended up dead, with an overdose. So they wrapped up all the loose ends, basically, is what they did. But in my opinion, JFK was murdered. The hit was ordered by the CIA within the United States government. Ooh, was he running an operation involving Oswald? That's what I believe. They've been working on this for a long time. They got their fall guy, right? And they manipulated him and got him all set up and got him plugged in. And, it reminds me of, the Jason Bourne. Like he's one of these Bourne soldiers that they bring in. If you remember the Jason Bourne series, right? Bourne Identity and so forth. They kind of take these soldiers and they really tinker with their minds. They use all different types of chemicals and tactics to program them to become killers for them. And then they activate him when it's time. And he got activated, but they had know all about him. Not only did they bring him in and reel him in, many years prior, they then groomed him to be their hitman along with the Mafia. These guys are crazy, man. They put the MK Ultra on Lee Harvey Oswald, and then they set it up to where as soon as he walked through the courthouse or wherever it was with the handcuffs on, somebody would just come up and kill him, so he wouldn't be able to testify as to what really happened, how he was most likely he was tortured and ran through the MK Ultra program and turned into this mindless NPC soldier that they programmed to do and hit on. He was like a remote control car, like a robot, basically. You see? So that's what happened. Just more friendly fire on the old grounds of the United States. Wow, man, these are some really crazy people. I don't even know how they can go to sleep at night, how they can kiss their children in bed and everything else. There's some real dark people out here and running in these programs. I mean, really dark people. At some point, us as human beings, we have to rise up and we have to put an end to all of this. If we keep waiting for a savior to come, that means like another president or another official to come in and just rectify all of this for us. don't hold your breath. Yes, there will be some shakeups here and there. Trump is doing some shakeups here and there. But if we want to really right the system and make it a system of the people for the people, then we have to come together and organize. We have to come together and stand up. We have to come together and force the change that we want to see. And it's not by fighting. It's not by picketing in the street and holding up signs and walking down the street, whining and crying and screaming and sweating and carrying on and smelling stink. It's not about rushing up to the White House and doing a 1,000,000-man march. That's not going to get shit done. I mean, nothing. It gets nothing done. Not one stinking thing. I never seen a picketing riot and a picket fence and all the people picketing with the signs, walking around. I never seen it accomplish anything. There's only one way to get what we want, and that is to stop playing the game. If you want to get what you want, if you want to have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and have a system in place that works with us, not against us, then at some point we would have to organize as people, forget each other's differences, work together, and we would have to negotiate what they did to us, a shutdown. Now, why don't we as the people of the world organize our own shutdown and reboot the planet? We can do it, but you see, you got to stop seeing me as a black man, and I have to stop seeing you as a white man. I have to stop seeing you as an Asian man or a red man or a yellow man or whatever. I have to stop seeing you as this religion and that religion and this level of wealth and that level of poverty. Can you get past that stuff? Can you break free from that mental prison that you're in, thinking all of these things? Left wing, right wing, I hate you, and all of this stuff, this gender, that gender. Can you break free from that? Can you allow yourself to come out of that stupidity and ignorance and psychosis and see through the veil and get out here and get organized? And then everyone at the same time says, we're going to flip the switch, bloop, and turn everything off. No more participation in anything. No more paying bills, no more paying loans, no more interest payments, no more nothing. Withdraw all your money out of the bank. Stop paying everything. Imagine if that happened. You see, they don't believe we can do it. So they're like, man, they'll never do this. But they know that if we did, it's over for them. But in their minds, they're knowing like, they'll never be able to do it. The programming code we laid on them is so strong, it will last for eons, many, many, many generations. And they know that our own hatred for ourselves and one another that they've programmed into us and got us believing will keep us from ever collaborating and keep us in competition and keep us incompetent and keep their boot on our neck. We got to wake up. At some point, we have to stop complaining about them and start talking about us. At some point, we have to look in the mirror and realize that we are the ones that put ourselves in this situation because we allowed it through collusion, cooperation, and silence. All right? That's just a fact. Sometimes you just got to keep it real. Sometimes you just got to keep it real, man. It is what it is. It is what it is. All right? Anyway, I don't believe if one person says we're not responsible for our lives, we're victims. Now, I respect you, NRS Spinelli. I'm not going to say anything negative. I respect you for your opinion there. But what I want to say is I want you to understand that the more that we take the victim mindset, the more we're going to get abused. One of the reasons why people get abused is because they take the victim mindset. Okay, and we're all guilty of it. I'm even guilty of it from time to time. It's nothing against you. It's nothing. I'm not coming down on you, but I just want you to understand that once we call ourselves a victim, we've lost our power. The moment that you call yourself a victim, your power is gone. Now, in the systems that we live under in this world, we have to understand that numbers are power. So each one of us has a voltage. Every human being carries a voltage, if you want to look at it metaphorically. When you put all of us together, the voltage builds and grows. It becomes a strong electro force. But when we're individual and we understand, like, well, I have power, even by myself, and I'm not going to claim myself to be a victim. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking to people and finding people that are on the same frequency as me. Eventually, we will need to organize. And once we organize, then we can collaborate. Once we collaborate, then we can flip the switch. I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but I tell you what, I sure would love to see it. I sure would love to see it in my lifetime. I'd be happy to see it in my lifetime. And have them come begging to us because we've turned everything off. Imagine 100 million people don't go to work on Monday and just say, no, we're not going to participate. Imagine 100,000 soldiers walking out of the military and going home at once, all at the same time. No army, no military. But see, we don't have this. We're not strong up here. We're not strong up here. At our core level, we want to love each other. At our core level, we want to collaborate with each other. At our core level, we want to be of service to each other. At our core level, we want happiness for ourselves and our family. But at our programming code level, in our subconscious, the programming that's been fed into us since the time we were born, and all of our epigenetic memories, which go back 15 to 20 generations inside of our bodies through the RNA passed down on the father's side, keep screaming out to us to hate, to be angry, to take the victim mindset. You have PTSD, you're depressed, you're not enough, you're no good. And all of these things build up within us, and we feel like we have no power, and then we feel like we're just victims. And once we feel like we're victims, we've relinquished whatever little bit of power we did have out to the system, and they've absorbed it like archons. Okay? So you have to understand, at some point we will rise up. At some point we will take back control of this planet. You have to believe that. It might not happen in your lifetime, or maybe it might. But just be on the ready, because at some point this system has to collapse. It can't persist forever. If you study history like I study history, you'll see that every empire falls. The Roman Empire, which was one of the greatest empires in all recorded history, they're gone. The Egyptian Empire, which was one of the greatest in recorded history, they don't even have toilets in most of the homes over there or running water. They're gone. Everything operates in cycles, including empires. Empires rise and empires fall.